Applicant, Mr. Zen Azrael Lucas, D.0.8. The 18th of March, 1997. 2022. I write to update circumstances for Mr. Lucas, further to original documentation refreshed in August. Diagnoses. Mr. Lucas has diagnoses of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, childhood sexual, emotional, and physical abuse. Learning disability, primarily for reading, writing, possible history of ADHD, dissociative identity disorder, which also impacts on cognition, attention, and memory, osteogenesis imperfecta dental problems. Living circumstances. Mr. Lucas is currently living in a private board arrangement without lease. The other tenants in the rooms tend to be international visitors on short stay. Mr. Lucas has been advised by the house manager that he can either stay for another 6 weeks or he may be forced to share his room with another tenant in bunk beds. It would appear the house manager is primarily providing short stay and Mr. Lucas feels his tenancy at the current address may not be secure or sustainable. Social circumstances. There are no family members who can provide Mr. Lucas with support. His biological family, mom, cousin, one auntie, are in Wagga, but history of abuse and neglect has impacted the quality of relationships. His mother is currently medically unwell. Mr. Lucas may make a final visit to his mother on compassionate grounds. Legal issues. Court-ordered counseling continues for the time being. Mr. Lucas has a public guardian, Amanda, who is preparing for a guardianship review hearing in December 2022. Social vulnerability. Mr. Lucas has no stable social circle and has several past intimate relationships were exploitative and/or abusive. He would benefit from capacity building, community access, support with life skills and opportunities for meaningful activities and training. He has approached many services, for which he was not eligible due to age, youth services cut out at 25 EO or other narrow criteria. He has therefore been unsuccessful in receiving support. Financial circumstances. Mr. Lucas reports debt of about $5,000 debt from unpaid bills and loans, is receiving Centrelink payments, disability support pension, but is unable to afford the various therapies and services to support his physical health and psychosocial capacities. His current board is $430 per fortnight. Risk level and recommendations. Mr. Lucas's current circumstances continue to be severely impacted by lack of support. The ongoing nature of this has been leading to cumulative psychosocial difficulty, involving risks to health, personal safety, social stability, housing stability, and economic stability. Thank you for reviewing Mr. Lucas's application. Applicant, Mr. Zen Azrael Lucas, D.O.8, the 18th of March, 1997. I write in my role as MTR Lucas's clinical psychologist since 2020. Mr. Lucas had a form lodged approximately February 2022. His temporary guardian at that time, Mr. Gregory Span, had been the contact person for the application. Unfortunately, Mr. Span is now deceased, and it has emerged that he was experiencing probable dementia symptoms. Correspondence regarding Mr. Lucas's NDIS application was not being actioned or forwarded to Mr. Lucas in the months leading to Mr. Span's passing. Mr. Lucas is now homeless, as the family are placing Mr. Span's home on the market. Mr. Lucas has complex and ongoing disability, and is at significant psychosocial risk with no next of kin. We request that processing of the updated application as Mr. Lucas was advised by NDIS to arrange be expedited if at all possible. This letter accompanies the standard access request supporting evidence form for Mr. Lucas's functional support needs. Diagnoses. Mr. Lucas has diagnoses of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, childhood sexual, emotional, and physical abuse, dissociative identity disorder, osteogenesis imperfecta, and dental problems. Psychosocial circumstances. In the time Mr. Lucas's application had been in progress, Mr. Lucas has experienced a great deal of psychosocial instability. There is absence of family support, due to extensive history of emotional and sexual abuse. Mr. Lucas has been vulnerable to other social connections made. His previous 2 partners each had personal histories and/or diagnoses which predisposed them towards some emotional and relational instability. In general, Mr. Lucas has substantial history of exploitation and abuse. His current homelessness status is increasing his risk in this domain. Mr. Lucas was appointed a temporary public guardian through NCAT in 2021-22. Legal issues. After moving out of Mr. Span's home in 2021 during a period of difficulty between them, Mr. Lucas entered a relationship with a young man named Damon, who had a complex diagnostic presentation and social history. There was a great deal of volatility in the relationship, ultimately culminating in their breakup in 2022, but also in Mr. Lucas's homelessness. Unfortunately, in the midst of conflict, 2 police matters arose which have been recently heard in court. Mr. Lucas received some consultation from Justice Health NSW and Justice Advocacy Service in Hornsby in the course of dealing with court matters. Mr. Lucas is now under a court-ordered treatment, which includes continuing his psychology sessions with me. Homelessness and social vulnerability. With nowhere to live after the dissolution of his relationship, he returned to live with Mr. Span. Unfortunately, whilst undergoing surgery for hip replacement, Mr. Span passed away. The home is being sold by the family. Mr. Lucas sought to stay with a person he had just met, and this arrangement has already failed due to critical illness of the person he was staying with. Attempts to access services have been made. In addition to lodgement of NDIS application, Mr. Lucas had previously utilized the maximum yearly quota for crisis accommodation, and he had made inquiries with various welfare services such as Salvation Army to search for stable accommodation. No service to date has had any immediate housing stock to assist him with accommodation. At times he has relied on staying at venues that carry significant risks or with social contacts who may not be reliable or trustworthy. I am concerned that Mr. Lucas's current circumstances are placing him at social, emotional, and sexual risk due to having so few accessible supports. Financial circumstances. Mr. Lucas is receiving Centrelink payments, but is unable to afford the various therapies and services to support his physical health and psychosocial capacities. Risk level and recommendations. Mr. Lucas's current circumstances are severely impacted by lack of support. The ongoing nature of this has been leading to cumulative psychosocial difficulty, involving risks to health, personal safety, social stability, housing stability, and economic stability. Mr. Lucas requires stabilization of this circumstance to commence working on skill and capacity building associated with his disabilities. If Mr. Lucas's NDIS application can be expedited for review, this would be quite helpful given the acuity of his current circumstance and the ongoing nature of risks he currently faces.